Okay, and we're back. And now we're going to start talking really down and dirty about memorandum of law. Okay, so we call it a memo, a legal memorandum, an interoffice memo. They're all kind of synonyms for the same type of writing. Uh, some are clerks, paralegals, newer attorneys. In a big firm, a lot of what they do is writing memos. Okay, and the audience is an attorney in the firm. It could be, whoever is kind of supervising the researcher here. Okay, and this is the style of writing for this memo is, since it is an internal document, is we call predictive writing that we just talked about in that last video. Okay, so what we make sure we have a statement of the facts. The facts here are the facts of the client's case, what legal issues are presented. Then there is a discussion section. Okay, for each discussion section, maybe you organize it by issue or sub issue. You do usually organize it by issue. And in that discussion section, you state the rule of law and then you apply the law to your facts. Okay, so your discussion has the statement of the rule of law and the application of the law to the facts. Okay, that's your analysis. Okay, then you have a conclusion. Okay, at the end, summarizing all of your points, and then recommendations for what our next steps are, what happens after this. Okay, so we've done this, little memo heading throughout the semester, right? Where it's memo to assigning attorney from you, date, maybe some case information if there is a specific file, and the subject to the memo. If you don't, for whatever firm you're working for, you can ask someone in the firm for the style, right? That's just kind of, we've seen this before. Okay, you might also add your statement of assignment. Okay, so that in your first, before you even get into anything else, you say what this is how I understand what you've asked me to do. As you request, I researched the legal elements and application of battery laws in Illinois, whatever that is. Okay, then that's your summary of assignment. Okay, in our facts, we have done, statements of facts in our case briefing, but we are not doing case briefing here. Okay, so the facts are not the facts of a case we've read. The facts are the facts of our client's case. Okay, so we want to make sure we have all our relevant facts, everything that we are then later on discussing in the body of the memo. But we don't want to overshare. Okay, so concise, but include all our relevant information. If we don't know facts, we cannot assume them. If there is an important fact that we have not uncovered yet, we can, go back to the assigning attorney and ask them, or you write the memo with facts either way. If the speed limit was 35 miles per hour, they were, operating at an excess rate of speed. If the speed limit was 60 miles an hour, they were operating at the speed limit. They were not unreasonably operating the car, right? So that's if we don't know an important fact, we maybe circle back with our assigning attorney, or we write the memo with facts either way if it's an unknown. Kind of a good standard of practice is after you've finished writing your whole memo, even though you don't want to do this, you go back to your statement of facts. Have I anything I am discussing in the body of the memo, is that included in my statement of facts? And obviously, we want it organized in a logical fashion. You don't want it like drunk history where you're just kind of rambling, or you're like, oh, wait, I forgot to tell you this, right? So logical, sometimes it's chronological. However, it appears in an organized, easy to read, easy to understand fashion. Okay, then our issues. And we've been working a little bit on issues, but remember that our legal issues are legal issues, right? It's not like, is he guilty? That's not a legal issue. Legal issue is, what is the standard of care in a nursing home or something like that, right? What is the, what are the elements of the crime of battery, or I don't know. I can't even think of other examples, right? And sometimes your issues, right? It's a complex memo. You might have more than one issue. And that's one of the things after I assign you your memorandum of law, we are working on our issues. Okay. That's the first assignment you're going to give me. And they're not going to be factual issues. They are going to be questions that are legal applications. Okay. Not factual conclusions, not something that the jury or the judge would determine, the jury would determine, or if the judge was a fact finder, determine. Okay. So really, you kind of want it in this like long format, right? What is the legal issue with the specific facts of our case? Does a mandatory sentence of life imprisonment violate uh, the Eighth Amendment ban on cruel and unusual punishment? Okay, so that's my or my specific facts. A statute with a mandatory sentence of life in prison without parole. Okay. So again, after we complete our memo, we might go back and rewrite our issues to make that clearer. Okay. Once you get to your discussion section, we're going to use what we call point headings. Okay. Each little section is going to be labeled, whatever, and organized with maybe Roman numerals. And then if we do subsections, then capital letters. Okay. Point headings. And each point headings, we describe what's in the section of that legal document. Okay. Because whoever is reading our document might not want to read it start to finish the way I've written it. They might want to jump ahead, right? They might say like, you know what? I'm not really interested in the facts. I know the facts of the case. I'm going to jump right to issue number 2 because that's what I'm interested in right now. Or they come back, they read your whole memo and they want to come back and read something a second time, or check out the legal research in that side. Oh yeah, that was in the section on issue 2 or whatever. They want to jump right there and have it fly right out at them, right? Because it's so clearly labeled. And then maybe they're jumping right to the conclusions, whatever that is, right? We have our headings set out for us. What was that on page 278? Oh, where's my point? Here, boom, boom. No point headings. All right, maybe not. We're going to talk about that in a second. Our thesis paragraph. Okay, these are like point headings, right? It's all, okay, here's our discussion. We have issue 1, boom. Issue 2, boom. A, B, right? So it's so easy to get to it from our, we can jump right to what we're interested in. Okay. In our discussion paragraph, we're going to have, paragraphs. Okay. We talked about our topic sentence. So each paragraph has a topic sentence, and the paragraphs are a group of related sentences that flow logically and they address one idea. Okay. For each section, you are going to have a thesis paragraph, okay, which is kind of like your intro paragraph for each section, where you're stating our legal issue, the rule, and the conclusion, and it sets the tone. And right, so for each section, you're going to have a thesis paragraph. Each paragraph has a topic sentence. Okay, so in our discussion headings, we use those point headings to organize it into our issues. Each section has a summary paragraph, body, and conclusion. Okay, that is your thesis paragraph, and use our topic sentences to be clear. Okay, for our research, right? The research we're like, okay, we are starting to write. We've done our research. We've done our outline. Okay, sometimes it all depends on how you have organized your stuff. My daughter loved note cards. She was always a note card person. I'm like, okay, note card. Then you start thinking about which note card goes to what section. Or say you have case briefs, and then you have your case briefs. Maybe you label a case brief. This goes into discussion section 2. Like I showed you on Westlaw, how we save our research in folders. You might have our research folders in Westlaw where you're like, okay, well, these ones go to issue 2, or, whatever that is. Same thing in a firm where you might have a document management system. You might save things in different folders on different legal issues. Okay. And then you throw those, that information, what cases or what sections or what paragraphs or what arguments in which that cases, into our outline. Okay. What laws go where? On organizing how to write something, if we were, stating a rule of law, we state our law and then we give our source, including the site. Okay. So under Illinois law, a motion for summary judgment is only granted when there's no genuine issue of material fact. Okay, so here's my rule of law. Here is my site. Here is an example. When you figure out a product is unreasonably dangerous, right? Here's the sentence, and then right after that, you have your case site. So that's how you state your rule of law, and then we have our primary law with perfect blue book citation. When we are writing, we have to figure out what we're addressing here. We're looking to say, is there a cause of action? Okay, any cause of action is broken down into elements, and those elements are listed in the case law. Okay, so we set out our elements, like, under Illinois law, negligence is established when there's a duty, breach of duty, causation, injuries and damages, whatever. Okay, so we have we put out those elements, then we have our case citation, then we talk about our case. What are the facts of our case? Okay, here someone was driving at a high rate of speed or something like that. Like, okay, well, in these other cases, high rate of speed was per se negligence, right? So then you have that case in there. And we're like, well, since they were operating blah blah blah, it is likely that the court, that this is evidence of negligence, something along those lines. Statutes, same thing, like we did the other week, where we're breaking down those statutes into elements, and then we apply our language, or the language of the facts of our case, to those elements. If there's an issue on what the terms of a statute mean, you might have to use case law to interpret those terms. Okay, so we've gone through all of those for each of our discussion sections under each of our issues. Then we go to a conclusion, which is the answer to our issue questions. Even though we have stated this in the discussion section, we're going to restate it in the conclusion again, because the reader might just jump to the conclusion section and not go through and read each of your separate sections. Okay, so a recap of your issues, summaries of your answer. You might have a separate section with recommendations. You might, we were talking about if we have unknown facts, we would say something like, if the facts are X, then the court will rule in this way. If the facts are Y, the court will rule in another way, or will likely rule in another way. So that is how we do that. Okay, we have, simple memos and complex memos. So what I was going to, we're going to work next week in class on a simple memo, but for our memorandum of law, we are going to have what we call a complex memorandum of law. Some additional items that are in a complex memorandum of law would be a table of contents, a table of authorities, summary of issues and conclusions, and an appendix. So our table of contents, just like in a book, right? Our major topic headings and the pages they start on. Table of authorities, that is everything that we have relied on, primary or secondary, and again, the pages that they appear, and they're separated out by the type of authority. Summary of issues and conclusions, which would be early on in your memo. You just state you have all your issues and a quick answer, A, B, C, D. Okay, that's your summary of issues and conclusions. And we'll talk about that more and when I assign you your research memo. Okay, and the appendix, we're really not going to have to deal with this, but sometimes if you're, say, the issue or the issues in your memo deal with a contract, you might have like that contract attached as an appendix, or think of it as like an exhibit, right? An affidavit, charts, photos, maybe some discovery responses, things that you are maybe referring to in your writing, that then it will be easier for the reader to just look at what's attached. Um, After you're finished all your reading, editing, revision, so important, so important. Okay, so I mean, I know, I don't know if you guys have printers at home. I do recommend for editing to print it out. Maybe I'm just old school, but sometimes if you print it out and then you get yourself a pencil and revise, it's easier to see if maybe you have duplicate sections, things that you've used twice. Also recommend that, do your revisions, give yourself time away, walk around the block or look at it at the next day, and revise it. Okay, so check for, does your organization make sense? Make sure you have thesis, paragraphs, and topic sentences. Are your facts discussed in your discussion, in your statement of facts? Work on using your action, your active, passive, using active language rather than passive, eliminating unnecessary words. And if in your firm, you might be able to get somebody to read your draft, one of your coworkers, before you submit it. For when you're doing an assignment for school, you can get somebody at home or a classmate to maybe read it. Sometimes you've dealt with it so much that you're like, wait, you don't even realize that some things may not make sense because it's you're so in your head about it. Okay, so that's it for this part. And again, we're going to be working on this stuff for the next few weeks. Kind of your intro here. I want to get back to our assignments here. So it looks like a lot, but some of the stuff is, stuff that's been assigned for a while. Okay, so we have reading assignment. What we're going to do for your assignment for next week is just continue to practice on Westlaw and do some statutory searching. I call this my dumb laws assignment, and it's laws in a bunch of states that maybe are silly. So I want you to do the research, give me the correct citation, and answer the question. Okay. So for those, that's your main homework. We have our quiz, the Blue Book project, which I assigned you last week, which is due next week. And then that Westlaw certification that is due. It's not due on February 28th. I'm going to have to change that there. But it's due, I think, April 4th. And again, that extra credit, those writing exercises. So that's it for this week. I will be back. We will be back live on Blackboard Collaborate Ultra for our next class. I will chat with you then.